This week, the Washington Commanders take on the Chicago Bears on Monday Night Football here in Week 6 of the 2025 NFL season. And today on the Commanders Report, I'll be giving my in-depth preview, going over what the Bears do schematically, talking about their roster, talking about some keys to victory for the Commanders to pull out the W on Monday night. And then, of course, we'll have our official score prediction at the end of today's show, so make sure you guys stick around. But before we get into the content today, we are currently in a subscriber battle with our frenemies this week at Bears Now. That is our Bears channel here at Chat Sports. We are currently just 6 subscribers behind them right now. They have added 73 new subscribers this week. We've added 67. I would love if you guys would click that subscribe button right now if you haven't already. If you've been enjoying our content for a while, but you haven't clicked that subscribe button yet, help us beat the Bears Now crew here today. New viewers, we are counting on you guys. All the real ones that have already clicked that subscribe button, almost 50,000 of you guys can't help us out here. It's only new blood here, so make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already, and if you are a new viewer that wants daily Commanders content for free every single day. All right, so let's get into this, man. Monday Night Football. This one should be a fun one. Northwest Stadium in Landover on Monday night. You got the 2-2 Bears coming off of a bye, coming into Northwest Stadium this week to take on the 3-2 Commanders. Commanders trying to improve to 4-2 and really solidify their standing as a legitimate playoff mainstay in the NFC in this matchup. And, of course, this is a rematch of the Fail Mary from last year. Of course, infamously, Tyreek Stevenson, jeering the crowd, in the end zone, and then the ball is snapped. He doesn't realize it, and then they throw it up into the end zone with the Hail Mary. It gets tipped up into the air, right into the waiting arms of Noah Brown, and ends up being a touchdown for the victory. One of the most fun finishes to a game I've ever seen in my entire life, and I don't think it's going to be quite that crazy at the end of this game, but you never know. But hopefully the Commanders, just like last year, can pull out a victory versus the Chicago Bears. Some injuries to watch this week on both sides of the ball. Terry McLaurin, Noah Brown, and Sam Cosmi go into the week as the questionables this week. It would be really nice to have Terry McLaurin back, but it would also be really nice to have the guy that caught that Fail Mary last year, Noah Brown, back for this football game as well. Sam Cosmi was a full participant at points last week, so it seems to me like he's going to be all ramped up and good to go to play this week, and it'll be his season debut. And then on the other side there, on the other sideline, you're going to have Darnell Wright dealing with an elbow issue right now. Our Bears host, Harrison Graham, tells me that he's probably not likely to play on Monday, so keep that in mind. But then Colston Loveland is dealing with a shoulder injury. Jaquan Brisker has an unknown injury. Apparently didn't practice today. At the day that I'm recording this on Tuesday, just so you guys are aware if you're watching this later in the week. And then Grady, Jarrett, and Cairo Santos are also questionable. If Santos can't go, it'll be Jake Moody, all right, the former draft pick for the San Francisco 49ers, who has been picked up by the Chicago Bears. He is notorious for missing kicks. So if Santos can't go, guys, that could be a major X factor in this ball game. But then another injury that you guys should be made aware of, it's not up in the air. It is a done deal. Jalen Johnson will not be playing this week. He is still on IR. He's not eligible to come off of IR, so their number one corner won't be available this week either. Then when it comes to the results that Chicago has had so far this season, honestly, they should be 3-1. They had that game by the horns there against Minnesota and just completely lost it at the end of it there on Monday Night Football, ironically, against the Minnesota Vikings to kick off their season. Then they got the brakes beat off of them on the road in Detroit. But then the last 2 weeks, man, they beat the Dallas Cowboys at home pretty handily, and then they beat the Las Vegas Raiders on the road. And, say what you will about the Raiders, but winning on the road in the NFL, it's not nothing, and certainly Caleb Williams has been looking better the last 2 games as well. Plus, they're coming off of a bye, so they should have ample rest. That'll be an advantage that they have this week over the Commanders, who are coming off a later afternoon game against the Los Angeles Chargers in Week 5. But you guys can take a look here at the coaching and schematic breakdown for the Chicago Bears. Not the Chicago Bears, F. Ponzi in the chat, by the way, for effing up the graphic. But then the head coach here, Ben Johnson, 2-2 in his NFL tenure to this point. First-year head coach, obviously. The offensive scheme that they run is a modern pro-style system. Lots of tight end usage, lots of priority of the run game and up front. They like to do a lot of trick plays and kind of gadget plays as well, so you got to keep your eye out for that. And then on defense, they run a very man-heavy system here with Dennis Allen leading the way in Chicago. Hasn't been fantastic to start this season, but we'll talk about their personnel here in just a second. But we'll start here with the offensive personnel for the Chicago Bears and the expected offensive personnel for Chicago here. Caleb Williams is their starting quarterback. We'll have an extensive scouting report on him later in the show. But then Theo Benedict is going to be their starting left tackle. They are benching Braxton Jones at this point in the season. So Benedict, who has been playing quite a bit of right tackle with Darnell Wright dealing with some injuries here, he's going to be playing left tackle. Then Joe Tooney, excellent left guard, maybe the best pass protecting guard in football. He is absolutely excellent. Drew Dahlman is also a pretty darn good center, really athletic center. For them. And then they got Jonah Jackson, who they brought in free agency this year. He's really good as well. And then Darnell Wright, like we said, he might not play, but he is the expected starter if he is able to go. Then in the skill positions here, you got DJ Moore as the number 1 receiver. You got Roma Dunze at number 2 receiver. And then Olamide Zaccheaus. We know Zaccheaus quite well here in Washington, played quite well for us last season. And as we know, he's a more than serviceable starting level wide receiver in this league. Then at running back, they have DeAndre Swift, and then Cole Kmet will be their main tight end. But rookies in rotation. We'll see if Colston Loveland plays, but when he is in the lineup, he does play quite a bit, and they play quite a bit of 12 personnel, which means 2 tight end sets. And Luther Burden III is a rookie out of Missouri, wide receiver that does, they use him quite a bit in their gadget stuff, actually. So keep your eye on Luther Burden III when he does get playing time. And if Darnell Wright can't go at right tackle, it'll be rookie out of Boston College, Ozzy Trapilo, who will be getting the start. So certainly, I think that the Commanders have an opportunity to win on the edges this week. So look at Dorrance Armstrong, look at Von Miller, look at Jacob Martin to have big weeks this week, especially if Darnell Wright can't give it a go. But then on the other side of the ball, up front, not fantastic, I would say. We are very familiar with Montez Sweat, who is an excellent run defender. He's also pretty darn good as a pass rusher as well. But right now, Grady Jarrett's dealing with an injury. Jervon Dexter's actually had a pretty decent season to this point, but we'll see if Jarrett can make it onto the field. Their depth at defensive tackle honestly isn't that good. And then Dio Adengabo has not been fantastic on the edge this season either, especially as a run defender. Then at the off-ball linebacker position, they spent a lot of money on these 2 guys, TJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds. I can't say they're exactly worth the money, but they are certainly a solid linebacker duo, maybe one of the better ones in the National Football League. Then you get to the secondary. Tyreek Stevenson, the guy that was jeering the crowd last year, he's going to be the number 1 guy in the secondary here among the corners. So if Terry McLaurin plays, it's going to be interesting to see that matchup play out. But then Kyler Gordon, he plays in the slot when they play in nickel, which is most of the time. But he is technically their CB2. He will play outside when they play base formation. Then they get Kevin Byard as their free safety. Jaquan Brisker also questionable this week with an unknown injury, but I would assume that he plays this week. And then the guy that comes in and plays outside corner when they're in nickel, which is, like I said, most of the time, is Nashawn Wright, who's had some flash moments, including a pick 6 versus J.J. McCarthy in the opener this year. So still to come here on the Commanders Report, my keys to victory this week versus the Bears. I got my full scouting report on Caleb Williams, and of course I have my official score prediction for Commanders versus Bears on Monday Night Football coming up at the end of the show. But before we get into the rest of this week's preview, let's have a word from our sponsor today at Ethos. And guys, the summer before I started here at Chat Sports, my family lost my late grandfather, and as you tend to do when you lose a loved one, you begin to think about your own mortality and what would happen to the people dependent on you if something were to happen. With today's sponsor, Ethos, your family is protected. Cassie and I are getting married soon, and shortly after that, I imagine we'll buy a house and start having some kids. If something were to happen to me, the last thing I want the people I love to worry about is being able to pay the bills, so I trust Ethos to keep them protected. And as you guys probably already know, however, the process for obtaining life insurance can be super confusing or just straight up annoying with how tedious the process can be. That's where our friends at Ethos come in. As of March 2025, Business Insider named Ethos the #1 no medical exam instant life insurance provider. Ethos is an online platform that makes getting life insurance fast and easy to protect your family's future in minutes, not months. There's no complicated process, and it's 100% online. There's no medical exam required. If you just answer a few health questions, you guys can get a quote in as little as 10 minutes. Protect your family with life insurance from Ethos today. Get your free quote at ethos.com/NFL Daily. That's ethos.com/NFL Daily to get your free quote today. Application times may vary. Rates may vary. A big thank you to Ethos for sponsoring today's edition of the Commanders Report. So my first key to victory this week for the Commanders is to keep Caleb in the pocket. Don't let him play his brand of football, which is kind of backyard football, running with it, getting outside the pocket, using his incredible arm talent. That's how he can play this position at a high level. And where he struggles is really everything to do from within the pocket. Accuracy concerns. Footwork is not fantastic within the pocket. His mental processing still a very big cause for concern for him when working within structure. And then also his decision-making can make some really boneheaded decisions with the football, can be a bit panicky in the pocket, but there's no questioning the physical and tangible talent that Caleb Williams brings to the table, man. The arm talent is off the charts. This kid has made throws that I simply cannot believe. He may be the most talented passer on planet Earth today. Maybe outside Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, he's in that class of arm talent. He really is. His ability to throw on the run full speed, I've never seen anybody be able to do that at this level, maybe other than Josh Allen. So his playmaking instincts are off the charts. His vision, his pocket presence, his ability to maneuver pressure is really freaking good. And he's a plus rusher. He's a borderline dynamic rusher with the ball in his hand. So, if you allow him to play off script and you allow him to get outside the pocket and hurt you in those ways, that's how he's going to beat you. I currently rank him the 25th best quarterback in the National Football League. Obviously, he's getting better with the in-structure stuff. Ben Johnson's trying to tutor him in the ways that he did with Jared Goff in his first season there with the Detroit Lions. But, man, Caleb wants to beat you out of structure. So the goal for the Commanders needs to be to not let him do that. And there's a number of ways you can do that. You can contain rush. You can blitz him with 5 players and plug up every single potential escape lane for him and force him to beat the blitz in that regard. You could throw cover 0 blitz at him and force him to get the ball out quickly. There's a lot of different things that you can do to negate Caleb Williams' out-of-structure playmaking ability, and that needs to be the focus of defensive coordinator Joe Witt Jr. this week. And then, something else that you got to do from a player's perspective and an execution standpoint, these guys have to have good eye discipline, and they can't get fooled from some of the trickery that we are probably going to see from Ben Johnson in this game. Ben Johnson is notorious for his gadget plays and his trick plays and all these different things, and you better believe we're going to see probably one trick play kind of sort of thing in this game, and the Commanders need to be ready for that at all times, whether that's a wide receiver pass or a stumble bum or whatever the case may be. We're going to see something from Ben Johnson in this game that's going to be a bit wacky. Joe Witt Jr. and this Commanders crew need to be ready for that to not get burned by it. Another key to victory, moving on to the offensive side of the ball here, guys, is to run the ball down their freaking throats. All right, that's what the game plan should be on offense this week. The Commanders' strength on offense this year, plain and simply, guys, we've been talking about it on the channel quite a bit. It's their run game, and you guys can take a look at their run game stats right now. In terms of the efficiency, yards per rush, number 1 in the National Football League. In terms of yards per game on the ground, number 1 as well. Then when it comes to the advanced metrics, they're also in the top 3 there in EPA per rush and in success rate. So this is really the strength of the team. It's a really good run-blocking offensive line. They've got good run-blocking tight ends. They've got talented backs like Bill Krosky-Merritt, who had his breakout game last week. And then on the flip side here, you look at the Chicago Bears on defense defending the run. It's exactly the opposite. Dead last in the league here in yards per rush. 6.1 yards per rush allowed. That is insane. Then you get to the yards per game, man. Over 160 rush yards per game. That's 31st in the league as well. And then the EPA and success rate stuff, it's a little bit better, but certainly not fantastic at this point in the year. So Washington needs to take advantage of this. I think it's probably the mismatch of the game, and it's one of the reasons why I really do heavily favor the Commanders to come out on top in this football game, but we'll get to that in a second. Then we'll get to a way that you can kind of run it down their throats, and you got to get heavy. All right, this is a defense run by Dennis Allen that likes to live in nickel. So how do you kind of counteract that? Well, you put in an extra offensive lineman. Last week versus the Chargers, that was Trent Scott. You put in John Bates in there as an awesome run-blocking tight end, and then you kind of force, Chicago to play a brand of defense that they don't want to play. They want to play light. They want to play fast. They want to have a lot of speed on the field and play with a lot of too high safety structures. That's not going to be something that the Washington Commanders want them to do. They want them to force them into one high safety coverages. You want to put them in heavier personnel that they're not used to playing and kind of play their brand of football versus theirs, okay? And then another thing that I think in the passing game needs to happen this week is the outside guys need to win, all right? I think Jalen Johnson being out of this Bears defense is a big deal because they play so much man coverage. And, you're going to have one-on-one opportunities with your outside receivers. And listen, if it's not Terry McLaurin, then it'll be Deebo Samuel. It'll be Jalen Lane. It'll be Luke McCaffrey. It'll be the guys that they've got playing on the outside here. But if Terry McLaurin plays, man, he's got to be the guy on the outside. He's got to be the guy that makes Chicago pay when they do adjust and get heavy and put just one high safeties out there pre-snap, all right? Like, he has to be the guy that can cook Tyreek Stevenson one-on-one on the outside. We haven't seen Terry McLaurin have a crazy explosive game to this point in his season. Granted, he's been out the last 2 weeks, so he's going to have to get things going. Hopefully he can return to the lineup this week, and if he does, I'm really hoping this is the week that Jaden and Terry get back on the same page. Then my final key to victory here this week, guys, is to play the cleaner game. I believe that the Washington Commanders are just the better football team here. They're home. They have a lot of those advantages here. I think they're going to be able to run the football. I think they're going to be able to move the football. I think they're going to be able to confuse Caleb Williams a little bit here and kind of limit the impact that he can make on this ball game. The Commanders are the better football team, man. So if you can limit penalties, you can limit stupid mistakes, you can limit turnovers, I think that this should be a runaway game for the Washington Commanders. I am going to predict the Burgundy and Gold to win on Monday Night Football convincingly, 31-16. I think by the end of this game, the rest of the NFL will fully realize that this Commanders team might just be better than what we saw from them last year. I'm hoping that the secondary can play better and continue to show that they have the talent to be a good group in this league. I'm hoping that the defensive line continues to play well. I'm hoping that the run game can continue to have success. I'm really excited to see this run game in action versus this frankly putrid run defense that the Chicago Bears have put out there to start this season. So I got 31-16. Commanders win. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. It's your turn. Predict the score of Commanders versus Bears on Monday Night Football here in Week 6. I got 31-16 Commanders. Let me know your take down there in the comments section. Now, just so you guys know, we will be going live on Monday night starting at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. That's 45 minutes before kickoff for Commanders versus Bears. So if you guys want 45 minutes of pregame coverage, we're going to be going through most of what we talked about here today in our preview, in our pregame coverage. Then we'll be going into live play-by-play, reacting to this game together, and then we'll have our extensive post-game coverage after the game is over. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already, because we do these game previews for every single Commanders game this year. We go live for just about every single Commanders game with our live watch parties, and then we have post-game reactions for every Commanders game as well. So if you guys don't want to miss any of that content here on the Commanders Report, make sure you click that subscribe button. Help us beat the Bears Now crew in our sub battle. Until next time, guys, hail to the Commanders.